if you look at, so societies that are advanced, so to speak, have very high literacy rate because, for example, in the political development of a society, what we see about democracy is, becomes very veritable in societies where people are more educated, where people understand their rights and privileges. If you don't understand your rights, you might not be able to determine who governs you. That is what is happening in places like sub-Saharan Africa, where people throw in themselves into leadership and they manipulate or maneuver the electoral system and get whatever they want. And at the end of the day, nothing works well because people, even those that have education, do not have the financial capacity, they don't have the resources, they don't have the dignity, they don't have the self-esteem to be who they want to be. You agree with me that some of the elements of development are lacking in the human beings in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, in developing countries. Some of them have low self-esteem. Even if they have education, they have low self-esteem. And when you have low self-esteem, you cannot fight for your right. You sometimes what drives that low self-esteem is because of poverty. So non-governmental organizations pursue these causes. They pursue education. They pursue, literacy programs, trying to ensure that human beings in that society are empowered. So it becomes, non-governmental organizations generally fill in the gap for government, especially in societies where government is weak. If government is weak, then the little opportunities that will accrue to that society will come in through non-governmental organizations. And that is why most development agencies, most development organizations in the world today, if they want to throw in funds to developing countries, they look for viable non-governmental organizations. Viable in the sense that it's not in the profit sense, viable in the sense that they are working non-governmental organizations. When a non-governmental organization is working, that means they are accountable, because non-governmental organizations are more accountable than government. If development agencies give money to non-governmental organizations, they believe that money will be easily accounted for, unlike monies that they give to government or states that will end up into private pockets, to enrich themselves. So what development agencies do is, as much as possible, they find non-governmental organizations that pursue specific objectives. So when they find such non-governmental organization, they fund them, provide opportunities for them, financial resources, and in some cases, material resources, if that's what is needed. Some non-governmental organizations in healthcare delivery, they get material support from, their sponsors in developed countries. Instead of giving them money, they provide equipment. And in support, so they also give them money as well anyway. But they provide equipment for them to, to pursue their cause. So most times, the non-governmental organizations don't only get funds, they get material support. They get material support in the form of equipment and things that will facilitate their activities. So what we are seeing is a world where non-governmental organizations fills in the gap. They fill in the gap for human development, for societal development, for economic growth and development. They fill in the gap. They fill in the gap for government. They fill in the gap for government. So in that case, they provide opportunities for people to live a better life. So, like we said, education, it's a basic need. Healthcare is a basic need for any society to grow. In the study of economic growth and development, education is a basic factor that improves an economy. For an economy to grow, that economy must be well educated, that economy must improve in learning, that economy must be able to provide opportunity for learning, that economy must provide resources for learning. And how do those resources come? They come from training, research, and development. So when you train your citizens to acquire knowledge, they will train those that come behind them, and the cycle will continue. And what you get in return is a society that is working, a society that is developed, a society where things work, where things go the way they're supposed to be. Not a society that is haphazard, society that anything goes. No. So the essence of non-governmental organizations is to guide government and make sure they provide those services that government has failed to provide. Because generally, in developing countries, government fail to provide many services. Like I said in one of our lectures, a major problem in developing countries is lack of proper identification. Lack of proper identification. Developing countries don't even know their citizens. For example, in Nigeria cannot do an adequate, analysis of allocation of resources. For example, they are talking about student loan. Okay, fine. You want to use the register of the schools to know, but what if someone is registered in 2 schools, or someone is registered in a school, and so there is always a flaw. But in societies like the United States, where every human being has a social security number, citizens are easily identified. It makes the provision of healthcare service delivery, education, and other social amenities easy. The government easily provides these services from day one, from the day you were born to the day you leave the world. When the person leaves the world, Social Security Organization will mark your social security number as deceased, and they will use that to provide the person's benefits for burial and insurance benefits, as the case may be. So systems, organized systems, have proper identification. So in the case of government provision of services, lack of proper identification is a major flaw in developing countries like Nigeria. I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 developing countries like Rwanda is getting it right now, with developments in all those countries. But I know in Nigeria, things are still very far, very, very, very far below what it should be. Even statistics have shown that we are better off in the 1960s than we are today. So, I mean, it's not far-fetched. We might be seeing some financial or medical progress in terms of number of those that are graduating from universities and the number of those that are, a number of houses and stuff like that. But that's not development. That's not development. Individuals making progress in their own life is not development generally. Development, like we all know, has to deal with broad-based development, a system that works, where institutions are working, where you can predict the next moment, where you can predict the next opportunities, where human beings have moral, good moral standing, good moral standing. So human development is an essential aspect of, social development, and non-profit organizations play a very major role in ensuring that society develops, or there is very adequate human development. For example, I remember the Carter Foundation, the Guinea Worm Eradication of the Carter Foundation. I remember sometime while I was at University of Lagos, I met a couple of guys at the airport when I was at the going to traveling out at the airport. I met some white guys that came in from the United States. They were working for the Carter Foundation. So when I had a discussion with them, they told me they were coming all the way from Ohaza in, I think Ohaza is somewhere in Enugu or Abia State or wherever, where they had their facility, to fight Guinea Worm. So imagine that level of, benevolence, where a human being wants to make such sacrifice. Jimmy Carter, former president of the United States, all the way down from his, home country in Atlanta, Georgia, sending people down here to Nigerian hinterland, the remote areas, to go and eradicate Guinea worm. That is what non-governmental organizations do. That is what they do. Sending professionals, medical doctors, from all the way from the United States, funding them with funds that sometimes from his private pocket, to make sure that they eradicate Guinea worm. And you agree with me that that program made reasonable progress in the development of Nigerian society today. You will agree with me. I think we will have less prevalence of Guinea worm. Guinea worm, I don't know what it is, but I know it was a major, disease, in that area. But with the intervention of the Carter Foundation, we can see that today there is less, prevalence. If it's still there, I think it's less, So that is what non-governmental organizations do. And you would agree with me that when the Carter Foundation was fighting that Guinea worm, we never had Nigerian government say anything about Guinea worm. Even if they had to say anything, they had to do it through the Carter Foundation. Probably they never had no interest in eradicating Guinea worm. The same thing is applicable to polio. You occasionally, the polio vaccine and some of those polio vaccines come from Bill Gates Foundation. That's what Bill Gates Foundation do. They finance, the polio vaccine and so many other vaccines. There's even, even the COVID vaccine that they came up with. So many, like the Bill Gates Foundation funded COVID vaccine for those vaccines to come to developing countries free of charge. They funded those. It's someone's money. It didn't come by through government pocket. Even those non-profits we are giving, like Bill Gates Foundation gave money to government to finance the COVID vaccine project. So social development, education, and healthcare are major areas where non-governmental organizations play major role. Non-governmental organizations play major role in these areas, and maintaining institutional independence and political neutrality. Non-governmental organizations do not meddle with politics. They don't come to play politics in societies where they provide funding. For example, if they want to provide a service in Nigeria, they don't come to meddle with Nigerian politics. They are neutral, And also, there are non-governmental organizations like the Human Rights Watch, all those organizations. They make sure that Transparency International, these are all non-governmental organizations. Human Rights Watch, they come to ensure that democratic, tenets are maintained, that societies operate in reasonable democratic manner. For example, when elections are organized in developing countries, Human Rights Watch come to become electoral observers. They come to watch and make reports to Transparency International. They monitor corrupt practices. So these are organizations, non-profit organizations, non-governmental organizations that maintain institutional stability. They are independent. They come here. They don't mingle with. They come to your developing countries. They don't mingle with the politics of that society. They don't interfere with, with institutions. For example, Human Rights Watch does not have any business trying to interfere with your judicial system, but they make sure that human rights are adequately protected. That the individuals in that society get the best out of that society, not a society where governors, or leaders will be humiliating, the downtrodden. No. So they maintain institutional independence and political neutrality. So that's one basic thing that you know non-governmental organizations pursue, and they also innovate. The non-governmental organizations innovate. They are very creative. They go into the grassroots. They find out what problems they have. They pursue those goals. They try as much as possible to, for example, when there is need to fight specific objectives, they do research. They find out what that society needs. They find out how to pursue that objective, and in the process, they provide of advancing that goal. So innovation is part of social development. It's part of what non-governmental organizations do. They pursue grassroots agenda, make sure that individuals in societies, carry, do the right thing, at the right time, and come up with positive, results. So grassroots orientation, trying to, sometimes they even educate citizens in societies, like during during elections, so to speak. They do voter, registration, voter awareness campaign. They do voter awareness campaign. Tell the citizens that it's time to register and it's time to vote, exercise your civic responsibilities. So these are grassroots orientations. So they make sure that citizens do the right thing at the right time with the right intention. So it is a basic necessity. One of the basic objectives of some of the basic objectives of non-governmental organizations. They pursue agenda. They are creative in nature. They provide, reasonable opportunity for people to understand themselves, for people to be aware of what they're supposed to do at any point in time. So, non-governmental organizations play a very major role. Let me pause here and see if I can get some questions from some of you. Does anyone have any questions so far or any discussion?
No, sir, we don't. It's very comprehensive.
It's comprehensive, right? Okay. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. So let's continue. So okay, so another area of the role of non-governmental organizations is providing sustainable community development. The word sustainable is word sustainable there generally implies that is long lasting, something that will live after, live the test of time, that goes beyond the present condition, the present situation, goes beyond the present situation and goes to live thereafter. So that's why the word sustainable is there, but ordinarily it should be community development. But sustainable, is a word that makes you see that the community development agenda must live after those that provide it. So, the first we have there is increasing local economic diversity, like microfinance and capacity building. This is a very important aspect of non-governmental organizations. Some non-governmental organizations will have, I think in Nigeria, there is a non-governmental organization, I'm trying to remember the name of that non-governmental organization, that pursues encouraging people to increase their savings, so such, and that non-governmental organization is in the area of microfinance. It's like a collection of individuals in let me use the word borrowers, so they pursue, their goal is to save money, like the Isusu thing, save money and go back to take loan from your savings. So there are non-governmental organizations that pursue that. Even in countries like Kenya, they have this. It's very popular in East Africa. Very, very popular in East Africa. Most small and medium enterprises, micro enterprises in East Africa, they have this microfinance scheme where individuals contribute money to a pool. So from the pool, you periodically go there to pick loans, and from that loan, use it to finance your activities, finance your business, and improve your lot. Sometimes they provide training facility, to their members. So these non-governmental organizations pursue community development in empowering their members. It's a non-governmental, but it's made up of members. So primarily, you must be a member of the non-governmental organization, of that association, to benefit. But those associations are registered as non-governmental organizations, but they provide capacity building for themselves, provide microfinance scheme for themselves, and they can also get funded from other non-governmental agencies or from government or from other agencies of similar interest. So the non-governmental organizations that pursue, community development also benefit from other non-governmental organizations. So what they do in this case is, the bottom line is to improve the economic capacity, the economic well-being of their members. So members harness, the opportunities available within the scheme, within the scheme. If it's a microfinance, they have a generous pool where people contribute money, and from there you can get loan when the need arises. If you need money to finance, probably you're how am I going to put it? A trader, someone that sells, a trader at a very small scale, or even if you're doing business, depending on the capacity, your financial capacity. So you can get loan to support your business. So this level, kind of microfinance scheme is very common in developing countries. It's very common in developing countries, because of the lack of availability of credit. One of the major problems of developing countries is because there is no credit. It's very difficult to get credit for business financing. Unlike in developed, like I said, so that is the situation. So in underdeveloped countries, where there is little or no credit facility, the microfinance scheme, becomes very veritable. It allows individuals to come together to form a pool, or microfinance as we know it in the ordinary sense is commercial. They give you loan, and you pay interest on the loan. So the microfinance banks don't really represent what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a scheme under community development that is a non-profit scheme, a collection of individuals or group of people that are willing to support themselves through raising funds to support their business, through providing training to make their business grow. So non-governmental organizations that promote microfinance and capacity building, what they do is the members come together. If you're a member of such non-governmental organization, you can make contributions to a general pool, and from that pool you can draw funds to support your business. And when there is need to train people to acquire a particular skill, they'll be able to provide that training for themselves. Probably they can go out to hire people to give them training and pay those people. But the goal of the non-governmental organization, like we said earlier, is not to make profit. Non-governmental organizations don't make profit. They do not make profit. Underline. That is the difference between a non-governmental organization and a governmental organization or a private organization. Non-governmental organizations, they intercede between the deficiencies of government and the service to individuals. So they are like middlemen to promote efficiency. They promote efficiency in the delivery of services. They promote efficiency in the delivery of services. Non-governmental organizations do not produce goods. They do not produce goods. They provide services. Provide services. So those services they provide, they can provide food, to ensure that people eat. They can have farm, to grow food. That's not that's not producing goods in the real sense. They can a non-governmental organization can engage in farming. They can get land somewhere, engage in farming, use that farm to produce food for their members, so their members can get free food, so to speak, to ensure food security. So if a microfinance organization is if the mission statement of that microfinance organization is food security, to provide food for its members, they can have farm. But the thing there is that if they sell any food from that farm, if they sell any product of that farm, they must use that money back to fund their activities. They will not make profit as in taking the money that they get from selling the produce of that farm to private pockets. No, if they do that, that's against the law. So what non-governmental organizations do is to fund their activities. They don't make profit. They don't invest in a business and start making profit. No, they don't buy shares. They don't buy shares. Non-governmental organizations don't buy shares. They don't go to invest in this petroleum marketing or sale of goods. No, they don't have any business doing that. Their goal is, for example, if the mission statement of that NGO is food security, to provide food for its members, they can engage in farming. They can engage in farming. They can buy land, farm it, grow food. At the end of the day, have enough food crops, items for their members, and everybody will be happy. Everyone will be happy and have a better life. So that's what microfinance do. So community development, they also try to make sure that the society is self-reliant. Self-reliance in the sense, like we're saying, they can grow farm produce, produce food for people to, have to have food to eat, if that is their mission statement. They can even process food. They can even process, products from the farm. For example, they want to make, cassava-based, products like gare or whatever, as we know in Nigeria. They can process cassava from their farm and make it into gare and sell. Not sell, give it to their members. They can sell it to their members, but the money goes back to sustain the system. It's not like selling it to their open market to make profit. No. If they sell in the open market, anything they generate from the open market goes back, go into private pockets, maybe for enriching themselves, even though they pay their workers, but whatever profit that is made out of the sale of the products of a non-governmental organization goes back into that non-governmental organization. And like we said earlier, one thing that distinguishes a non-governmental organization and a private commercial entity or a government organization, as the case may be, is that when that non-governmental organization is winding up, if it's winding up or closing down, as the case may be, they do not share their profits. What they do is they transfer their they can say, for example, if that organization is the NGO provides food security, they can look for another NGO that has a farm. It's okay, we are winding down, we want you to come and take over our farm. And that NGO will go and take over their farm because they have a similar goal. So that's exactly what we're saying. They will not sell that farm and take the money and share the money, as the case may be. No, they will transfer their farm to another NGO that runs a similar, has a similar mission statement or has a similar vision or mission, as the case may be. So some non-governmental organizations are in, developing energy conservation, equipment. There are non-governmental organizations that their goal is to educate people on how to manage their energy. This is very common in developed countries. Like in the United States, for example, there are, non-governmental organizations whose goal, they even call you on phone and tell you, do you know you can save cost, you can save energy cost by going solar? Some of them will give you solar panels at a discount, and at the end, you can get a tax write-off because the government encourages people to go solar, call it clean energy. So they'll encourage you to go use clean energy, So when you use clean energy, you get tax rebates, and such opportunities will help to reduce your dependence on energy, reduce energy dependence overall in the society. So fundamentally, non-governmental organizations create awareness for life to be a better place. They create awareness for promotion and improvement of life. They create awareness for people to understand what to do. They create awareness for people to know that, for people to improve their lot in the society. So that's what non-governmental organizations do. Some engage in recycling. They advise people on how to separate their, their plastics, their recyclable material from food waste. These are some of the things that are very important. Societies like Nigeria, you know, no, except while I was at Covenant University, I remember there is this interesting way of separating, Covenant University is a very good university, it's doing very well in Sub-Saharan Africa, you know, is really, doing a good job. So even in the area of recycling and management of waste products, as a matter of fact, there's something I need to also make you guys understand. Uh, University systems are largely non-profit organizations, you know, except the even in the real sense of it, in university systems, educational institutions are likely non-profit, they're likely non-governmental organizations, despite the fact that sustainable. Okay, okay, that's a good question. Okay, why? From my experience in the United States, why I say that is because in the United States, for example, um, um, every educational institution, it doesn't matter the category you fall in, whether private or public, is assumed that the system is not for profit, because if the system is made for profit in the real sense, it will be, it will be the knowledge harnessing process will be out of reach of so many people. So that is why many universities in the United States, for example, get funded. They get funding from government, whether private or public. It doesn't matter where the category you fall in. Government funds them indirectly. Government funds them indirectly. How do they do that? Every person in school in America gets financial aid, either in form of loan or in form of grants. So what they do is your university will get this loan and grants on your behalf from the Department of Education, no matter where you are, whether you're in private school or you're in public school. The difference is that when you're in the public school, it's a little bit it's a little bit lower. The funds the school get from government is a little bit less than those in private schools, because obviously, but let me look at it from the official aspect, the registration. In the registration aspect, a university system is registered as a non-profit. That is it. No educational institution in the world is registered for profit. No. I think that makes sense. Hello?
All right, sir. Yes.
Good. I think that's just the bottom line. Most educational institutions in the world are registered as non-profit. So that's exactly why I said they are more or less non-governmental organizations. So that's not, just the explanation, because they are all registered not for profit. So not only the universities, but research organizations, research institutions, research and development institutions all over the world are registered to promote human existence. That's the registration. If you're registering, to run an institution anywhere in the world, it will be registered as a not-for-profit organization. That's just it. So sustainable community development continues. So in that case, we're also saying that non-governmental organizations in the protection and enhancement of biodiversity and stewardship of natural resources. This is a very important aspect. You hear about some foundations like Worldwide wildlife protection and all those things. Even in some conservation, there is this. I remember in Nigeria, there is this Lekki conservation and all those things. Those are non-profit. Those are non-governmental organizations. Their goal is to protect the environment. There are so many of them around the world. So many non-governmental organizations that are, that their mission statement is to protect the environment, to make sure that the environment is a better place, and enhance biodiversity. Some are in the United States, for example, some are in the protection of animal protective services. They make they make sure that some animals don't go extinct. They go around the world to make sure that some group of animals don't go extinct. You hear about this. Let me remember. There's one that goes to in Kenya. I think their goal is to make sure that the ivory of elephant tusk, they protect the elephant ivory, the horn of elephants. It's ivory. It's made of ivory. It's it's a very expensive, stuff. So what they do, that non-governmental organization, what they do is to make sure that people don't take advantage of that to poach elephants, kill elephants and take their ivory for sale. There's a non-profit. If you go online, you should be able to find that non-profit, that non-governmental organization. That non-governmental organization is protecting biodiversity, and what they do is to make sure that protect animals and make sure that elephants don't go extinct. Because if you allow people to start poaching elephants, the way the ivory tusk is expensive, because it's a very expensive item. So if you allow people to start poaching elephants for the sake of ivory tusk, then it becomes a problem. Elephants will go extinct before you know it. So some non-governmental organizations make sure they protect, elephants. Not only elephants, they protect species, different species of animals, even lions, tigers, hyenas, different birds. Make sure that those birds don't go extinct. Collect, have a collection of birds. They monitor their existence around the world. There are researchers whose goal is to know the number of elephants, number of tigers, number of giraffes, number of a particular species of birds that exist in the world. And at any point in time, they can give you adequate statistics in that area. So they try to make sure that they don't go extinct. And that's what makes the world a better place to live. If those non-governmental organizations if they don't exist, then one day you come out to see that there are no tigers, there are no hyenas, there are no elephants. There's to be history, to be in history, to be like dinosaur, to just be like that. You say once upon a time there was elephants in so part of the world, but the world things don't. That's not sustainable. So there are non-governmental organizations that try to make sure that community development, is sustainable. Sustain human life at the same time, sustain animal life, sustain the life of all species of existence. Make sure that there's a balance in the social, economic equilibrium. So that's basically what non-governmental organizations do. They fill in the gap. They fill in the gap for government. You agree with me that there are so many things government wouldn't have done, if non-governmental organizations are not there. So many things. For example, like what we just about this. If government can make the laws, but sometimes they might not even understand how those laws, they might not be able to properly find out how those laws are, how they affect citizens. So there is need for non-governmental organizations that are closer to the grassroots, closer to the people, with less, treachery, so to speak, because when government wants to enforce their activities, they come with force, but non-governmental organizations do not come with force, they come with peace of mind, so people see them as being more welcoming. So that is why in most developmental projects, international organizations prefer using non-governmental organizations that are viable to pursue so many development agenda. Sometimes they, relegate the government and pursue such programs with non-governmental organizations. So let's look at another point here. Commitment of sustainable communities to social justice, counseling, and support service, awareness raising, and advocacy, legal aid, this is very, very important. Like we mentioned, Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch is a non-governmental organization. What Human Rights Watch do is they try as much as possible to ensure that the rights of human beings in the society are not trampled upon, that the citizens of any society are not unduly humiliated, they are not unduly, taken advantage of in the real sense. They provide legal aid for those who are in trouble. If those who are in trouble that do not have funds to fight their cases might get legal aid from human rights organizations. These are non-governmental organizations. Even the Nigerian Bar Association is a non-governmental organization as a body. Yes, most of these professional organizations are non-governmental organizations. They are registered as incorporated trustees, and once an organization is registered as incorporated trustees, it becomes a non-governmental organization. Educational institutions are also registered under a section of the not-for-profit organization. So when an organization is registered as an incorporated trustee, it's automatically a non-governmental organization. It's automatic because it's a non-governmental organization. So Nigerian Bar Association, for example, promotes social justice. They provide counseling. They provide awareness for legal aid, provide legal aid for those who cannot afford it. Okay, the microfinance here is not supposed to be there anyway. But even if it's, this microfinance is not supposed to be there. Microfinance stops at legal aid. Because we've already discussed microfinance. Okay. So they provide, the Nigerian Bar Association, as I was saying, is a non-governmental organization. It is. Nigerian Medical Association is a non-governmental organization. Nigerian Red Cross is an arm of the International Red Cross Organization. It's a non-governmental organization. These are major non-governmental organizations. The Nigerian Bar Association, for example, is a body of lawyers. They provide legal aid. If you have a case in court and you don't have financial services to pursue that case, if you don't have financial resources to pursue that case, you can ask for legal aid through the Nigerian Bar Association. They will give you lawyers as much as you need. They have the volunteer lawyers that are willing to volunteer to fight that case for you. So Nigerian Bar Association is a non-governmental organization. The Nigerian Medical Association as well is also a non-governmental organization, because I know if there is a medical emergency in any community, the Nigerian Medical Association should be able to provide rapid response. If they have available manpower, they should be able to provide rapid response to that community if there's a medical emergency. The same thing is applicable to Nigerian Nurses Association. Nigerian Nurses Association These are all non-governmental organizations. Any body of professional association, of people under incorporated trustees, registered under incorporated trustees, is a non-governmental organization. It's a non-governmental organization. So such non-governmental organization as Nigerian Bar Association provides legal aid, provides, maintains social justice. They can, take up a cause. If a community or a particular group of people are unduly, unduly harassed, let me put it that way, the Nigerian Bar Association can come to your aid. If it's the police, they can, go to court and challenge that organization. If your resources are being taken away from you unduly, you can seek legal aid from the Nigerian Bar Association. If they have available lawyers, lawyers will be available. You see volunteer lawyers that are ready to handle the matter handle the matter. So most professional organizations are non-governmental organizations, because by virtue of their registration, they are non-governmental organizations. So that's a very important one. Then another one is we're talking about service delivery, relief, welfare, education, and public policy advocacy. This cannot be overemphasized. That non-governmental organizations pursue, relief services, welfare services, like the food bank, food aid. They go into communities, in societies, advanced societies like the United States. Let's look at, there is this program they call World Food Aid Program that go into war-torn societies to provide relief material, provide food. These are non-governmental organizations. In societies that, if, for example, in the United States, there are food banks, that are managed by churches, or associations, non-governmental organizations. They provide food for people that don't have food. If you're hungry, you can just walk in and get, food, as if it's available. Most times it will be available. You get food. So I know also in these things are a function of society anyway. In this part of Nigeria, for example, there is need for non-governmental organizations or for the wealthy individuals to have their foundation give out food to people occasionally, give out food, or the churches, as the case may be, open their doors, provide food for people that are hungry. Like I said, churches are non-governmental organizations. They are not for-profit organizations. The same thing is applicable to, schools. Can provide relief services, welfare to people. Education, fundamental. That's a fundamental community development activity for non-governmental organizations. Provide education for people. Make sure people learn. Lifelong learning, ability to acquire knowledge, ability to move individuals from one level to another, ability to promote individual learning, put people in a pedestal where they can understand themselves, create awareness, and promote their self-esteem. That's basically what community development is all about, and sustainable community development is all about. So non-governmental organizations, aim at, carrying out some of these fundamental projects. Public policy advocacy, major aspect of non-governmental organization services. Creating awareness to people, telling them what to do at the right time, making sure that people don't fall foul of the law, making sure that people do the right thing, alerting you of your civic responsibility. like we said earlier, when it's time to register to vote, you register to vote. When it's time to prepare for an election, you prepare for an election. When it's time to carry out any civic obligation, the non-governmental organizations are in good position to do that. They promote, sensitize the people on the basic things about life, sensitize the society, create awareness, call the society to order. If government is not doing anything right the way they're supposed to do it, the non-governmental organization has a duty to call the government to order. If there is undue display of anything that does not go well in society, non-governmental organizations or civil society organizations, that's another word for non-governmental organizations, if I forget. Some jurisdictions call it civil society organizations. They should be able to call government to order, call individuals to order, call the society to order and say, look, this thing you are doing is wrong. It's not supposed to be this way. This is the right way to do it. And that is basically what they get their funding for. Some non-governmental organizations are funded to promote public policy, ideology. They can sensitize the people on government policies. For example, the government wants to change the currency. A non-governmental organization can take it upon themselves to say, look, go to the bank, change your currency, make announcements in the radio, even do door-to-door announcements, telling people to go and change your currency or perform some civic duties. Even in the area of health, non-governmental organizations can intercede, going to go to schools, like schools in the rural communities. Some schools in the rural communities do not have basic amenities. Some of them don't have basic amenities. Non-governmental organizations can go to those schools, build library, build sanitary, improve the sanitary facilities of the teachers and the students. Some schools in rural areas don't have, even in urban areas in Nigeria. When we talk about some schools in urban areas in Nigeria don't even have good sanitary facilities. Don't have. Sanitation is zero. So non-governmental organizations can go to, inform the students and the teachers alike on how to improve their sanitary condition. If possible, build, sanitary toilets and all whatnot for them. Build libraries, so that they can learn. Provide computers, provide laptops for them to study. So these are things non-governmental organizations can do. They do it, and that's what they should be doing. So it's very, very essential. Let's look at what's next. So also in the area of sustainable development, like I said, when we talk about development, once we add the word sustainable, you know what that means. The word sustainable is living for tomorrow, making sure that people tomorrow benefit what you benefit today. If anything that is not sustainable, it's not going to live the test of time. So the idea of sustainability is making sure that the development of today is good enough for tomorrow. For people coming in, generation unborn, they also have to benefit from that, because we cannot exist in this world and shut it down. We have to live in the world and let the world continue. So that's what sustainable development means, is the layman's sense, and that's what it is. What sustainable development means is the ability to live so that others can live. Others that come after you can live. It's as simple as that. And, what that means is look at the peace, the places, whatever you have to put. Environmental protection is one major aspect of sustainable development. And non-governmental organizations play a major role in environmental protection. I remember there's this wildlife, I think WWF, World Wildlife Fund or something like that. They are in the area of environmental protection. There is this habitat, Habitat 2000 or thereabout. I can't remember exactly what it is, the full name, but they are also in environmental protection. In Nigeria, there is this conservation in Lekki. I remember, that is also in wildlife, also environmental protection. So the environment is a major aspect of development, because if your environment is not healthy, you are in trouble. You cannot survive, not talk less of generation unborn. So environmental protection, making sure environment is healthy, reduce desertification, desert encroachment, reduce unnecessary burning of bush and all whatnot, So environmental protection is a major aspect of sustainable development. And how do you carry out this at the grassroots level or at the broad-based level is being carried out by non-governmental organizations. Non-governmental organizations ensure that the environment is good enough for people to survive. The environment is good for generation unborn, so that what you have today as a good environment will be there for generation unborn, for your children. That's what sustainable development is all about. There is nothing special about sustainable development. What is special there is your ability to understand that for anything to be sustainable, it must live after you. It must live after you. You cannot end, even in your family, for your family to be sustainable, that family must continue after you. If that family does not continue after you, then it's not sustainable. So you must make sure that life is sustainable anywhere, any day, anytime. So development as it is. In fact, the word sustainable development should go hand in hand with the word sustainable should go hand in hand with development. Because if development is not sustainable, then it's not worth it. I guess I'm making sense. Are you listening? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. So, sometimes I need response so that it will not seem as if I'm talking to myself.
No, we are listening.
Okay, thank you. So sustainable development, the word sustainable is to make sure that generation unborn, people after you will benefit from the society, from the environment as much as you're doing. So it's for continuity. For anything to be sustainable means that thing goes beyond you, goes beyond what you are seeing or what you're doing right now. It has to extend beyond you to generation unborn. So environmental protection, non-governmental organizations ensure that the environment is protected, like we talked about the elephant tusk poaching in Kenya and all those East African countries. Talk about NGOs that are into the habitats and the wildlife foundation. These are NGOs whose goal is to make sure that the environment is sustainable. So also we've talked about education. Education cannot be overemphasized. There is no how we can talk about development. In fact, the fundamental thing about human development, growth and development in economics is education. The difference between a developed country and underdeveloped country is education and healthcare. Every other thing is secondary. Every other thing is secondary. A developed country has broad-based education. People can learn and learn and learn at any time of their life. Learning opportunities are provided. They have more literacy, higher literacy rate. More people are educated. Forget about the condition in Nigeria. I will be wondering, okay, Nigerians are not really educated, so to speak, from my experience. From my experience of both worlds, Nigeria, our education is still very, very low compared with, with the advanced societies. We are still very, very far behind. So education. Someone has a question? Does someone have a question?
No,
No,
Okay.
sir.
it's clear.
Okay.
We are following.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So education is a major aspect of economic development. Education and healthcare. Education and healthcare. Why I say this is because it's education that builds the human capital, that builds the capacity to produce. The more educated a society is, the more productive that society becomes. Forget about, like I always tell you, forget about the situation we have in Nigeria. In the long run, we are going to see the benefits of this education that we have now, the ability for people to go to school, even though the government is not doing so much in that area, but individuals are trying their best. Individual families, individuals are trying their best, making sure they get themselves educated. That is the only thing that can move a society. That is the only thing. The more educated a society is, the better they become. A good example is India. India in their days, in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, India was very, very backward. 70s, 80s, India was very, very backward. But they insisted on going to school all over the world. You will see them studying in India. You see that at the time their certificate was worthless. No one wanted to go to school in India because everybody was in school. They wanted everybody, education was just cheap, so to speak. But today it's paying off. It's paying off. India's economy is stabilizing. They have a stable economy. They have a stable political system. So India is a good example of a society that can be transformed through education. India, as at 1970s and 80s, wasn't anything to write home about. But today, you have Chandigarh, the home. In fact, most companies in America, outsource their jobs to guys in India working from their homes in Chandigarh, in Bombay. I have friends from Bombay. They work for companies in America through their homes online. When you call Taco Bell in America, one girl will answer you from Philippines. One girl will answer you from Philippines or from Bombay in India. You would think she's in the United States. No, she's not. She's working from her home in India. All she's doing is responding to your request through her computer, answering and giving you advice, even if you want to trouble. For example, if you have a Dell computer and you want to work on your Dell, if it has fault, the guy that will troubleshoot your Dell computer is in India. He will troubleshoot your Dell computer, tell you the fault. Both of you will be on online screen sharing. He will tell you what to do, and you'll be doing it. And before you know it, your Dell computer will start working. Surprising, yes, but that is what education can do. That is what education can do. So good education can improve the lot of a society. No matter how irresponsible the government can be, but at a time, a society that is well educated will one day wake up to reality. Will surely wake up to reality. That society will surely wake up to reality. The most important thing is education, get education, make sure education is available, give people the right to be educated, and at the end of the day, development will come. That is what you see in Western advanced societies, because they've been able to put education at the forefront of their development agenda.
What happened? Oh,
Okay. Uh, I'm sorry about that break in transmission.
no problem, sir.
Okay. Welcome. Yes. We're almost rounding up, so I'm happy that we are making progress. Okay, so we are looking at education. Like I said, it cannot be overemphasized. Education is a very important aspect of economic development. Education, and the next is healthcare, provision of healthcare in the advanced societies. They've prioritized education and healthcare, and that is what makes them developed. That is the pain. Manila, Philippine will call Timo, they will answer you, and you think she's speaking from the United States. No, she's speaking from her house in Manila, and she's been paid in dollars by T-Mobile or Taco Bell or any organization that she works for in the United States. But she's in her house in Manila, Philippines, or in Chandigarh. That is what education does. If they don't have the education, they will not harness such opportunity. If they don't have the education, they will not harness such opportunity. So education is the key to sustainable development. And non-governmental organizations pursue educational services. There are non-governmental organizations that pursue, like I said, every educational institution is a non-governmental organization by virtue of this registration. They are all not-for-profit organizations. Then every other thing is secondary. So education is the key. The other aspect, preventing hunger. That one is obvious. Sustainable development, one of the sustainable development goals is poverty alleviation. The goal of every society should be to alleviate poverty. There are food banks, food organizations. We talked about those non-governmental organizations that can establish farms if possible, or establish food banks so that they can give hungry people food. So food is very, very important for poverty alleviation. Poverty alleviation, there is need for food. Poverty alleviation. So let's go to the last but not the least. So we have what we call sustainable consumption as well. As we have sustainable consumption is making sure that you consume what you need. Consume what you need, food security and poverty alleviation. You don't go into frivolous consumption. Because I have some non-governmental organizations that guide people in making sure that they eat right, that they eat the right thing, promote clean and healthy environment, making sure that your environment is clean. Because they say a healthy person is a godly person. There is no how you can think right if you are not clean. So non-governmental organizations can help to promote clean and healthy environment. They can help to promote food security that will alleviate poverty. You eat, but not to eat what you don't need. They will make sure you eat right. Give you, information regarding your daily needs for food. So non-governmental organizations do that. They do that. So non-governmental organizations, as it were, in the summary, they are organizations that mediate between government and the citizens. They can come in any way, in any form, in any shape or form. Mostly they pursue social services. They pursue social services. Services that affect humanity, that affect mankind, that promote our livelihood, that gives us a better life, that makes you, someone that can live for tomorrow. That's what non-governmental organizations do. Non-governmental organizations ensure stability, social stability, economic stability. They promote good governance in societies. Non-governmental organizations promote good governance. They make sure, in a society, people are not unduly humiliated. Some governmental organizations, their goal is advocacy. They inform you of your rights and privileges as a citizen. They will not allow your rights to be trampled upon. They make sure that people are protected under the law, and make sure that government, in some cases, they ensure that government does what it's supposed to do. And the citizens as well fall in place. They follow follow the direction. So non-governmental organizations are not-for-profit organizations that promote human life, human dignity, and human ability to succeed, in line with stated objectives. So they ensure they intercede between government and the citizens. And they receive funding from organizations with similar objectives. Receive funding from organizations with similar objectives, organizations that are willing to fund them, and they are always accountable to those organizations. So I think we should be calling it a day. If in the absence of any question, or if you have any question, please feel free to ask your question right now, so I can take one or two questions before we wrap it up.
No questions, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. I wish you all the best, and probably in our last lecture, we'll be able to do more of introduction, and I'll get to know many of you.
Thank you, sir.
And,
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir,
I
you are done,
appreciate you all. Thank you. God bless you. Yes, we're done. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. So we shall
God
see.
bless you all. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, our next lecture is next week, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so yes, next Wednesday we'll wrap it up. Next lecture we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll forward this. Thank you. I'll forward the slides and to the coordinator, able to forward it to you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.